Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel. I'm Gino Buccola alongside David Aragona. We're going to take a look at race number 9 on opening day at Santa Anita. It's the Grade 2 Mathis Mile. If you can, do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel below. That way you'll be alerted every time we have race previews just like this. Let's head on out and meet the field for race number 9. We have 3-year-olds going a mile on the turf course at Santa Anita on opening day. King of Gosford is 6-5 on the morning line. Horse that loves Santa Anita. David coming off a runner-up effort in the Hollywood Derby where he was a very good second. He's had some trips last time out, and then some other logical players in here like Stay Hot, who's been a real player in this division for the 3-year-olds really all year long, even dating back to last year when winning the DeMille Grade 3 as a 2-year-old. So those are two that I feel like are kind of the top two in here, and then maybe a tier above the rest.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see the disparity in price between King of Gosford and Stay Hot on the morning line. I wasn't really expecting that, having handicapped this race before seeing the line. I guess King of Gosford is going to be the favorite. He's the horse to beat coming off that good second against Grade 1 company in the Hollywood Derby. But Stay Hot also has form that stacks up very favorably against that favorite. And there are the two horses to beat, but there are some others in here that have run pretty well on occasion.
Yeah, Stay Hot has actually defeated King of Gosford in the past as well, and you get Hernandez jumping aboard Stay Hot, which can always be looked as a positive, who's one of the perennial leading riders here in Southern California. Let's take a look what Timeform US thinks about the pace of this race. I'm not surprised to see Curlin's Chaos, who's done a lot of his best work sprinting on the dirt, like the Real Good Deal, which was his big win a few starts back. So they'll probably try to get aggressive with him because that's what's worked best for him.
Yeah, he's going to be leading this race in all likelihood as long as he breaks from the gate. Don't really view him as a contender to hold on to win the race, but he could have King of Gosford sitting right behind him in the pocket, and I'm sure that Flavien Prat would be happy to pull that trip. King of Gosford put in trips like that in the first 3 starts in this country and was able to win all 3 of them, albeit sprint distances, so you know that he can rate just in behind his speed, and once you get past those two, there's not a ton of pace in this race, so I think you want to start to regard the horses that have to launch from way back with maybe a little bit of skepticism.
Yeah, I upgraded Heart-Headed a little bit just for that same reason. I thought a horse that might be aggressively handled in here and be able to put himself in a pretty good spot. So let's head on out and meet the field inside to outside. King of Gosford is the one we'll take a look at here, David. This was in the Hollywood Derby last time out, and this was a good effort when finishing second, but was second and was only about a quarter of a length in front of Stay Hot, who was also in this race and kind of moving down towards the inside. So as you were talking about the price difference between the two of them, I didn't know if there was that much of a discrepancy between those two based on the race.
Yeah, I thought they ran very similar races. They both were inside for much of their trips, kind of waiting for room around that far turn, and they had to wait to make their moves until that short stretch at Del Mar. But King of Gosford sort of got outside and had every chance and just couldn't quite get there at the end. The horse that beat both of them, Formidable Man, he's a very nice 3-year-old turf horse out in Southern California, so no disgrace losing to that foe. I just thought that all things considered, King of Gosford got a pretty good trip in this race. And I mean, a mile and an eighth might have been a tad far for him. I think the cut back to a mile is definitely going to work for him, and he's just been in very good consistent form over his past several starts, even though he hasn't won them all. I mean, he won those 3 races in a row just coming into the Phil D'Amato barn and just victorious in one of his last 5, but he keeps running similar speed figures, improving incrementally, so he's the horse to beat in this race, but 6-5 doesn't look too appealing to me.
Yeah, he did have some trouble in a couple races following those wins, but I just completely agree with you. He's the horse to beat, not necessarily the horse to bet in here. We move to a Tietlin, next one up, who's a Grade 2 winner, won the Twilight Derby 2 starts back. He's just going to have to get a little bit faster than what we've seen from him, I think, to compete with the top tier of runners like King of Gosford and Stay Hot. He did get kind of shifted back off the rail. He was back towards the back of the pack, 10th of 11, with not a whole lot of room early on. Can you see him taking a step forward in here?
Yeah, I don't think he has to be nearly as far back as he was last time in that Hollywood Derby. As you said, just kind of got, shuffled out early and was towards the back every step of the way. And that was not a race where you wanted to be closing from that far back. And he was trying in the late stages, just could never really get into the mix. The races, though, where he was closer to the pace prior to that, those were some pretty slow-paced affairs. So I wonder how fast he really is in the early stages. He's just a horse that's going to have to take a step forward to beat a group like this, but maybe he'll be a fair price.
Pace Factor, Curlin's Chaos is a Calbred Stakes winner. 2 of the 3 career wins have come on the turf, but that career best performance was sprinting on the dirt against Calbreds a few starts back. So just seeing him as the pace player, but I thought I agreed with your sentiment early. Like, I don't think he's a major player. I kind of see him setting the pace and then kind of the race really starting at the top of the lane when everybody looms up into contention.
Yeah, we talked about some of those slow-paced races that Atitlan was coming out of. Curlin's Chaos set the slow pace in the Twilight Derby and just had no answer for that rival and others in the late stages, so he would need to do better.
I know our producer Bobby's pick in this race, David, is Siennois. It's so fun to say this one. Siennois moved down to the inside, and it was a fantastic ride last time out. Just, he went from so far back in the field and then just quickly moved right up into contention, saving all the ground and like shot into the race. I'm a little excited as I talk about this because I had this horse last time at 20-1, but I thought he ran really well. And more than anything coming out of it, I thought it was a fantastic ride on Siennois.
Yeah, this is the kind of trip that you want to pull on a closer at Del Mar, because that's a course that does tend to favor horses coming from a little off the pace. And if you're able to save ground and cut the corner coming into that short stretch, it's like you make up 2 or 3 lengths on the field just passing that 3/16 pole. And that's exactly what Antonio Fresu was able to accomplish on Siennois. He was able to come right up the inside to beat that group. Was no match for King of Gosford when they faced off in the Let It Ride on his prior start. And he does seem like a horse that, though he's improving right now, he's facing a much better field than he did last time and is going to need to take yet another step forward.
And he's just not that fast early at all. And that usually will put him behind, and he's at the mercy of racing luck. And you need a kind of trip like he got last time out. And are you going to be able to reproduce that kind of trip against a better group? You just want to make sure you're getting rewarded if you like him in this spot. Stay Hot is just a really solid fit here, the number 5. Cuts back to a mile, a grade 3 winner who, as you pointed out, was just sitting right behind King of Gosford and kind of waiting for the chance to run. When King of Gosford got an opportunity, Stay Hot went down to the inside, was only separated by about 3/4 of a, not even 3/4 of a length, about 1/4 of a length or so. And I think price wise, if you're looking at those two as kind of the top tier, I just don't think there's a whole lot that separates the two of them. So if we're getting 3-1 ish on this horse and much shorter on King of Gosford, I'm going to lean towards Stay Hot as maybe the value in this race. In particular, another point too, he comes back to Santa Anita where he's been really well. I just think lots of positives for him.
Yeah, I feel like everything I said about King of Gosford also applies to Stay Hot. I mean, he's a horse that's just consistent. He's been improving his speed figures recently, not winning all his races, but he keeps running well. And he's another one that I think you could make the case that the turn back to a mile from a 1.125 actually suits him a little bit, because he's a horse that's got a really strong turn of foot and just feels like he flattens out a little bit at the end of his races going the 9 furlongs. So I think the mile is going to be perfect for him. I wonder with this jockey switch to Juan Hernandez, if the connections are kind of realizing this horse used to have a lot more tactical speed.
Yep.
And we just keep ripping him way off the pace in every start recently. Maybe they're going to go back to using this horse a little more aggressively here, and I think that could be to his benefit.
Yeah, there was one race in particular early in the year where he was in a field where there was no speed at all, and it looked like there was one lone speed type runner, and he showed so much like professionalism and tactical speed. Sitting second, you could always tell he was in the race, and he's kind of lost that, as you pointed out, in his last few. I'd love to see him just positioned closer, more mid-pack towards the front of the pack versus being way behind. Hard-Headed is a horse who I mentioned earlier. I could upgrade a little bit in here as far as hitting the board because there's just not that much early speed. I would not be shocked to see them getting a little more aggressive. He was very wide early on, so that last race you could probably put a line through because he was actually closer than it might look on the running line. They just had to make a decision early on. Do you want to go early and battle and be wide and in between horses? So Mike Smith took him back quite a bit. I could see him sitting a little closer in this spot. Hard-Headed gets to Tory to jump aboard. What do you think about his opportunity in here?
He's a horse that can get a little keen in the early stages, so if the pace really slows down, he's one that could be throwing his head about as they pass the wire for the first time. You want to watch out for that with him. I thought he got a really good trip two back. It says he pulled in the comment line. I actually thought he settled relatively well for him and just got a good trip from there and was simply second best to King of Gosford. So he's going to have to run better than he ever has before to beat a field like this, and not sure the trip is going to work out.
Call sign 7 will step up into Stakes Company. He broke his maiden going a mile on the turf for Michael McCarthy on November 23rd. That was in just his second career start. So he spots this field, quite a bit of experience, but he was impressive in winning that race. He was 36-1 though. So he'll need to step up again against Stakes Company here.
Yeah, I mean, for a horse that won at 36-1, I thought his last race was pretty good. I mean, he was three wide around both turns, never saw the rail, kept on to the wire, fought gamely once challenged in the late stages. The pace was on the slow side, and I think that benefited him, even though he was wide. He was up close to the pace most of the way, but it's not like it totally held together. He had a horse running at him in the late stages. So I think he took a big step forward to break his maiden in his second start. It's just, this is another pretty sizable step up in class.
Yeah, I love what you were pointing out. Like he hit the front, he had to kind of move past the initial horses, and then he had to hold off, I think, a couple more towards the outside. So you really saw some multiple dimensions from call sign 7 there. We move to Cathal, who is grade 2 placed. I played this horse 2 starts back. Last time out, he was wide, so he ended up taking way back to last and just wasn't able to really get involved with the race shape. We've took a look at that race in the Hollywood Derby. There just weren't many horses closing from the back of the pack. So where do you think he fits in here? Just doesn't seem to have all that much early speed, which is kind of what we're saying about a lot of these horses in here.
Yeah, he was kind of rated towards the back of the pack with a Tietlun in the early stages of the Hollywood Derby. He was a little wider than that, though, but just had no punch in the late stages, never launched a rally. So he's a little tough for me to like. It seems like his better efforts came against weaker company over the summer.
Lord Bullington is a 2-time winner, and both of those wins have come over the Santa Anita turf course. He's a stakes winner and grade 3 placed. He'll be making his second start off a 6-month break. He was back to about 10 plus lengths off early on. He was last in that field in his sort of prep race last time, but he did run on late, and that was against older, so he'll get to shift back in against 3-year-olds here. I think you like this horse a little bit, right, David?
Yeah, I don't care so much about the last race because it did kind of feel like a prep race the way they took him so far off the pace and he was finishing on at the end. And also, that was a really strong group of older horses that he was facing. A lot of these have just met 3-year-olds, and he was meeting some seasoned older rivals who had run speed figures that are kind of right in line with that 89 buyer that he earned. So I don't think that was some instance of him just being pulled along by the field. I think he actually took a bit of a step forward off the layoff that day. And I go back to his races early in the season, and yes, he was beaten by Stay Hot on 3 separate occasions, but I thought he had some trips in a few of those races, particularly the Pasadena, where he was just hung out with no cover, 3 wide around both turns. And I thought he actually ran really well to be beaten less than a length by Stay Hot that day. And he shipped east, also had trips, was wide in the Transylvania against some good horses. I think this horse is dirtied up and could outrun his 15-1 morning line odds in here.
Well, as we finish up with Lord Bullington, let's take a look at the selections for this one. David, we'll actually go right back to Lord Bullington for your selections with the number 9 in here.
Yeah, it just feels like a horse that's pretty dirtied up coming in here. He's had some trips. He's a horse that I was definitely interested in after he ran some of his races this spring, and just thought he got a useful prep last time, and coming into a race where I think he's going to be the right price and might get somewhat overlooked coming in off the board finish last time.
Thought King of Gosford and Stay Hot are the top 2 that are kind of pretty evenly matched. So I'm always going to look for the horse who I think will give us a little more value in that position. And if I was looking for some prices in here, maybe Heart Headed could be forwardly placed, aggressively handled, and hang on for a share, or Senwa, who is so fun to say and who is getting pretty good right now, who will come closing late. So 5-1-6-4 for me, 9-5-1-2 for David. However you're playing them in the Mathis Mile, we wish you the best of luck.